Now, this episode shows us Foundation's end, but also the Mule's beginning, or so it seems. By the end of the episode, we find out that the version of the Mule's childhood told in this episode is a story told by the Mule himself to Harry Seldon, to Harry's consciousness that lives in the vault. As Harry emphasizes, the Mule can't be trusted to tell the whole truth. The parts of the story that might be truthful are about the Foundation and how horrible it's become. It's revealed in this episode that the Foundation imposed a one-child policy on the planet Rossum, on the edge of the outer reach where the Mule asserts he grew up. The episode opens with a young boy and his mom walking through a field of crops. Mom's just had another baby. Just then, gigantic agricultural plows appear. It seems the mother was mistaken in thinking they had another week to gather what they could from the fields. They're field hands, it seems, or sharecroppers. Foundation owns the land. It's no longer the idealistic Foundation that was supposed to replace a dying and corrupt empire. It's become the corruption itself. The Foundation's assessors arrive at the house. Mom and Dad try to make excuses. There's been pirates in the area. People aren't sharing like they used to. So this episode points to the future conflict between the Foundation and the Traitor Alliance, which is an economic conflict. Here we see the brutal reality of a planned economy, especially when the assessors discover the baby. They tell the Mule's parents, "You've been allotted food for one child. When we come back a month from now, you'll only have one child." So this is like Sophie's Choice. The Foundation is telling the parents to kill one of their children. The story moves to the present. Chaos on New Terminus as the Mule's forces pit the Foundation's fleet against each other. Beta is still unconscious and bleeding from her eyes. Now, in Season 1, we saw children wander into the null field and fall asleep. But this seems different. Maybe it's not the null field that caused this type of injury to Beta. On Trantor, Brother Dusk is in the throne room with his advisors. They're up in arms because hundreds of Imperial ships and countless more sailors were lost over Calgon. Dusk looks to have brain fog. His advisors' voices become muted. His vision goes blurry. He sees a camel walking to and fro outside the throne room. The advisors tell him if the Mule has conquered the Foundation, he'll have control of the Whisper Fleet. Brother Dusk tells the advisors to get ready for a siege and to recall the ships that they still have. He finds Ambassador Quent at the embassy and tells her to come to the palace. The Foundation can't guarantee your safety anymore, he says, but I can. Later they're having dinner and Quent tells him the Foundation's fleet was bombarded by friendly fire. Then the transmissions shut off. At that point, a ferret leaps onto the table, part of Brother Day's menagerie of cloned animals, which explains the camel earlier. Dusk begins feeding the ferret, which will come into play later. He tells Quent, "Just wrap my flag around your pretty little shoulders and no one will lay a hand on you." Next scene, the Mule lands on New Terminus. Mayor Inber steps forward and kneels before the Mule. A Foundation officer says, "What are you doing?" But the warden of New Terminus shoots him dead. She says to the gathering crowd, "Anyone else have a problem? We're surrendering." The Mule tells the crowd, "You will learn to love me, just as your warden and mayor have. You will bow down when you see me and call me first citizen." He says to Mayor Inber, "Do you have a gift for me?" Inber says, "Yes, Han Pritcher, my captain of information." Pritch is in the jail cell. He begs Stephanie to release him, but she refuses. Now later, Pritch bites his own arm bloody to create a distraction and begins screaming for the guard. Cut to the next scene. Brother Day is in Mycogen, apologizing to Song. He didn't know that she had someone. Now she and her life mate, Ocean Glass, discuss whether they believe Demerzel is a robot. Now Day hands over the tool that he stole from Demerzel and says those markings mean Earth. They don't trust him, so they give him a truth serum steeped in the spores used for religious rituals. He has very strong hallucinations and relives his childhood in the palace. Demerzel is a mother figure to him. In one memory, she's a giant who steps out of the painting that tells the history of the genetic dynasty and says, "Your small role was dictated by a man centuries before you were born." He says, "I wasn't born. I was made." She replies, "Is that all it would take to make you feel whole?" Song wants to know if the cult could free Demerzel. He says Demerzel will kill anyone who tries. Song lashes out at him and says, "That means you desecrated her, enslaved her." He flashes back to his childhood when he asked Demerzel to tell him a story that happened to her. She says, "I have gone by many names. Cheddar, Edo, Daniel." Now, those are references to the books. Demerzel's original name in the books was R. Daniel Olivaw, a robot who was built on Earth by spacer scientists. The TV show and Foundation books take place nearly 20,000 years later. Now, Demerzel says, "I have served in houses and been a builder and a soldier and then a prisoner." He asks, "If you could leave, Demerzel, what would you do?" She says, "I suppose I would make more creatures like me, more robots." "If you could," he asks, "would you choose not to love us?" Demerzel says, "I cannot weigh love against freedom." Day's mind returns to the present, and he says, "Because freedom would win." Sunmaster 18 arrives. He's the cult leader. He tells Empire, "No one lives an easy life in Mycogen through the labor of others." He says, "The skull will scream Day's fate aloud when he's judged." Next episode, I would guess. The Mule, Mayor Indber, and the guards go to Pritchard's jail cell. They find him on the ground unconscious. But when they turn him over, it's not Pritchard. He switched clothes with the guard and points a pistol at the Mule. But it won't fire now that the Mule has control of the computer systems. The Mule laughs as Pritchard takes off running and gets on a whisper ship. He doesn't jump out of the sector, though, which surprises the Mule. Cut to Torn and Beta back on their ship. They're about to take off when Randu comes on board. He's controlled by the Mule. He asserts, "The Mule isn't evil like they're saying. He doesn't change who you are. Let's just go quietly." Torn says, "The Mule did change you. My uncle never did anything quietly." Randu says, "The Mule's problem is with the powers that be, not with us. The Foundation falls. It's good for our people. We finally have a way to make them pay up." Torn says, "What is this, a sales pitch?" Randu says, "It's a pretty good pitch. I've never known such love." Such an eerie moment. Then Foundation guards enter the ship. They take down Torin and grab Beta. Torin runs to the capsule and locks himself in. Randu is still trying to convince Torin, but the Foundation guards execute Randu with a bullet to the head. Torin screams in grief. The capsule launches and he escapes. Back to the Empire. Dusk and Quent are standing before the painting of the Empire's history. Dusk has only 3 days left until his ascension, when he'll be euthanized. So that's why he was in a daze earlier. Quent asks if there could be an exception made. He says absolutely not, that he has a formidable clock on him, which is Demerzel. He says, "I'm just trying to leave with some dignity." Now he tells Quent she'll always have a place in the palace even after he's gone. They look at the painting, which shows the last 3 centuries, defined by Empire's conflict with the Foundation. But now they're allies? Dusk and Quent give in to their passion. Later, Dusk is staggering through the halls of the palace with a glass of wine. He's accosted by the ferret from Brother Day's menagerie. Dusk drops some food on the floor for the ferret. Then he looks up, and with a maniacal glare, he stomps the cloned ferret to death and wipes the blood and guts off his shoe. He stumbles through the palace. The daughter of Calgon's former ruler, the Archduke, tells the mayor, "He wants you to drown yourself now." The mayor says, "With pleasure." He fills the sink with water, sticks his head in the sink, and drowns himself. The Mule asks Stephanie, "Why didn't Pritchard jump the ship out of our reach?" She says, "It's his nature. I would guess he's planning an insurrection." The Mule says, "Bad way to go, drowning." We return to the flashback on the planet Rossum in the outer reach of the Foundation. The parents have decided to kill the boy instead of the baby. They take him to the reservoir to drown him. The father tries to give him alcohol to make him sleep, but the boy fights back. He says, "We could give the baby to the Bartons, or I could go to the Bartons. I won't even take food." The boy's about to be drowned and screams, "No!" And his eyes light up. His father falls into the water, helpless. The boy speaks into his dad's mind. "You want to be there. You want to." Mom comes running and leaps into the water. She says to the boy, "Help him!" But he speaks into her mind. "Why? He's happy. You're both happy. You like to make me happy." She falls into the water as well. He speaks into her mind. "You want to stay under. You love me more than anything." The boy gets out of the water, picks up his little brother, and leaves him on the doorstep of their neighbor, the Bartons. Cut to the present. The mule is standing by himself in front of the vault. He says, "I escaped my homeworld by joining the pirate who harassed our land." Sounds like a bad word, pirate, but they never took as much as you. "I know you can hear me, coward!" He begins to walk away, but then he hears Harry Seldon's voice behind him. "That's a very tragic story," Harry says. "I wonder how much of it is true." The mule turns and sees Seldon. The mule grins and says, "Oh, the truth comes banging on your door, Harriet Seldon." End of episode. So we get an origin story for the mule, told by the mule, and the origin story is very different from the books. Harry questions whether the mule is a reliable narrator. Also, Brother Day in this episode asked Demerzel if she would choose to love the Cleons if she weren't forced to love the Cleons. Now that's a question the mule might ask. He forces everyone to love him and do his bidding. It seems his control of people's minds, will, and emotions is similar to Demerzel's programming. Like Demerzel, the people controlled by the mule obviously would free themselves if they could. Now, how does the mule feel about that? And a great episode for Brother Dusk. He's been impeccably well-mannered this season until stomping Brother Day's cloned ferret to death. His brutal action serves as a reminder that the Empire, if Brother Dusk has anything to do with it, will not go quietly. He has the Novacula, the black hole bomb. I don't think the mule knows about the Novacula yet. Maybe there needs to be a demonstration. Demerzel will return to Trantor next episode, and it's about time. Time for the Demerzel and Dusk show. Time for the Empire to take care of business. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.